Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the IESF World Esports Academic Seminar 2021. My name is Misa Lee, and I'm going to be your MC today. Today's seminar is held under the projects of the World Esports R&D Center. In cooperation with the International Esports Federation and Busan Metropolitan City, the World Esports R&D Center has been operating every year since 2018 for the continuous development and growth of the world esports industry. And this seminar aims to establish a consistent institutional foundation for the development and direction of the world esports ecosystem. I'd like to kindly inform you that this seminar is pre-recorded and streaming on YouTube to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We are strictly complying with the COVID-19 quarantine guidelines and social distancing policies of the Korean government. Now, I'd like to introduce the people who helped to organize today's seminar. This event is hosted and organized by the IESF and with the support of Busan Metropolitan City and Busan IT Industry Promotion Agency. The venue for the seminar is Busan Esports Arena. This is a cultural complex where you can enjoy esports games, performances, events, and promotions. In particular, it is an honor to be able to introduce the seminar to you here at Yellow Space, and it is a space where various esports cultural events are held, such as esports talk shows, viewing days, and esports athletes autograph sessions. IESF is the unifying body for world esports. It was founded in 2008 by 9 member nations, and it is currently composed of over 100 member federations across 5 continents. The IESF brings together all esports stakeholders to achieve a united ecosystem for the development of sustainable and responsible gaming worldwide. We look forward to your continued support for the IESF and the World Esports R&D Center. Today, we will have 2 research presentation sessions which were selected in advance at the World Esports Academic Competition 2021 for the scientific and systematic development of world esports industries. Also, there will be presentations in a total of 4 sessions, including 2 research presentations invited for today's seminar. And there will be a short award ceremony of World Esports Academic Competition 2021. As I have informed you earlier, this is a pre-recorded event. Now, let us begin the World Esports Academic Seminar 2021. Now it's time to call the award winners of the World Esports Academic Competition 2021, hosted by the IESF, which is one of the World Esports R&D Center projects that have been carried out since June of this year. This competition has been conducted in 2 categories, which are call for paper and research request. The evaluation commission selected by the IESF examined whether the creative research was conducted based on the broad understanding of the development and direction of esports industry and market, and suggested major agendas for problem solving. Then let me announce the winners. First, I'd like to introduce the winners of the call for paper category. We have a total of 3 winners who will receive 1 million won, 2 million won, and 3 million won respectively for the prize. First, it's the 3rd place winner. The winner is Noe Ricardo Mendoza Hernandez from Black Parrot Esports, who wrote a paper on the topic of how to professionalize esports teams. Congratulations, he will receive a certificate issued by the IESF and a prize of 1 million won. Let's hear the acceptance speech.
Hi eSports community. My name is Noe Mendoza. I am CEO and consultant of Black Parrot Esports. My purpose is professionalize esports teams. This award is dedicated to my mom, dad, sister, girlfriend, and friends. Thanks for always support me. One of the main weaknesses of the esports industry is the lack of professionalization. In this lack of professionalization are esports teams. My research aims to demonstrate that esports teams can become professional with quality management system based on the ISO 9001-2015 standard.
Next, I will announce the second prize winner. The winner is Kim Kyung-rae from Kangwon University, who wrote a paper on the topic of research on the factors of esports viewing satisfaction and improvement of esports event bias, CCG esports card, and dual disc design. Also, he will receive a prize of 2 million won along with a certificate issued by the IESF. Congratulations! Let's hear the acceptance speech.
Hello, I'm Kim Kyung-rae, and it's really an honor to achieve second place of call for paper in IESF World Esports Academic Competition 2021. Nowadays, esports industries are growing more than we realize, but it is also being focused only in the popular field. We have to make a good forest, not just a good tree. Then we could build a good system. Good Tree is a popular esports like League of Legends. People love finding trees in the forest. Thus, unpopular esports are like sprouts in the forest. They may not be cared, but they are essential. I wrote this paper to look and care into the fundamental. None of the trees skip the sprouts period. If my paper helped just a little bit to build a good system, I would be very glad. Thank you.
Now, this is the first prize winner. The winner is Ryu Hae-yeon, Kwak Seung-won, Park Da-won, Lee Ha-seung from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, who wrote a paper on the topic of preliminary research for collaboration between esports teams and content creators. They will receive a prize of 3 million won along with a certificate issued by the IESF. Congratulations! Let's hear the award speech.
Greeting, we're students of Hankuk University of Foreign Study, a global sports industry department. First, we would like to express our thanks to IESF for evaluating our paper positively. And also, we want to thanks for our professor, Songy Park, for informing us this wonderful competition. So through this competition, Tawon, Ha-seung, Hyun, and Seungwon all have great passion on this competition, and we are really willing to contribute on world esports industry. So through this competition, we have developed ourselves a lot, and we want to develop more and more, and also contribute continuously and happily. Thanks again, and wish all the best for you. Thank you.
Once again, congratulations to all the winners. The research paper selected for the first place will be presented at today's seminar. I hope you don't miss out. Then I'd like to announce the winners of the research request category. The winner will be provided with a certificate issued by the IESF along with a research support fund of 20 million won so that the selected research project can be carried out. The winner is Dr. Claude Stricker from AISTS, who wrote a paper on the topic of global economic impact of esports, the value chains of esports stakeholders. Dr. Claude, congratulations. Let's hear your award speech.
Salutation to all viewing this video. I am Dr. Claude Stricker, Executive Director of the IESF. The IESF is the International Academy of Sports Science and Technology founded in the Olympic capital Lausanne by leading Swiss universities and the International Olympic Committee. IESF is a non-for-profit foundation with a mission to professionalize sport management by delivering continuing education and performing applied research within an engaging platform of all sport stakeholders, federations, IOC, Olympic suppliers, and many more. The success of this mission requires combining multiple perspectives, integrating the science of economics, management, law, technology, or sociology, thanks to our Swiss universities and to our established platform in the sport ecosystem. Our rich global network across the sports spectrum allows us to tap into timely data that drives today's sport ecosystem. Since 2002, the IESF has conducted a broad range of research mandates on behalf of international federations, including the International Olympic Committee, corporates, or government organizations. In terms of continuing education, our flagship program is the Postgraduate Master in Sport Administration, a leading MBA in sport, educating sport managers from all over the world since 2003. It is a pleasure to win the research request section from the Global Esports Academy Competition 2021, focusing on global economic impact of esports and the value chains of esports stakeholders. We look forward in delivering robust information that can benefit the IESF and the esports business community.
Congratulations for winning the competition. The project selected for the research proposal contest will also be presented at the seminar today, so please look forward to it. Once again, I'd like to express my congratulations to all the winners. IESF and Busan Metropolitan City will continue to strive for support in the development of esports. We would like to ask you for your interest and support for the development of esports. I'm in the main arena to introduce the presenters of today's seminar. The main arena is the representative space of Busan Esports Arena with 292 seats, and we hold various esports competitions and events here. Today, the winners of World Esports Academic Competition 2021 will give us the presentations here. The first presentation is on the topic of preliminary research for collaboration between esports teams and content creators, which won the first prize at the Call for Paper category of World Esports Academic Competition 2021. Please welcome Ryu Hae-yeon, Kwak Seung-won, Park Da-won, and Lee Ha-seung from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies.
Hello, this is first presenter Park Da-won, and we are going to present about preliminary research for collaboration between esports team and content creators. I'm gonna present about introduction and suggestions. The global spread of COVID-19 has hurt many areas of society, and existing sports on the premise of contact have been particularly damaged. However, even in this situation, esports which can proceed non-face-to-face and non-contact has steadily grown. The overall size of the industry has grown at home and abroad, and Korea's shares of it is also growing. As such, esports are no longer limited to young people, but are accepted as leisure and sports that can cover all ages, and the possibility of including international competitions such as the Asian Games and the Olympics is increasing. In addition, unlike other sports, esports uses its unique characteristics to prove the sustainability and stability of the league and strengthen its position, and these esports are expected to have a greater synergy effect when linked to content creation or new media use. Meanwhile, As the OTT market has grown significantly, there has been a big change in the media industry. Currently, video content is the most popular OTT content using portable devices, accounting for 79% of our online traffic. In particular, these video services are mainly used by teenagers and people in their 20s. And they are the same as the age group who mainly join esports. As the use of new media by people called the MZ generation increased content creators who gain huge popularity on online platforms, where the mainly work appeared. They are also called influencer and have a strong influence of the MZ generation and are opening a new field of marketing. Esports and influencer marketing have many things in common. First of all, the main target layers of sports and influencer marketing overlap. Both industry target people in their teens or 20s. Teens and 20s. OTT service influencers' main active media is one of the platforms used by the esports industry. Finally, both esports and influencer marketing weren't hit hard during the COVID-19 period, but rather showed growth potential. The two industries, with many similarities, are expected to have synergy effects together, but related research is not easy to find, so we would like to analyze the current status and status of influencer marketing utilization of domestic and foreign esports teams and find ways to create positive synergy between esports and influencer. This study conducted literature research, in-depth interviews with experts, and surveys for experts to achieve the purpose of the study. Research problems and goals to achieve the purpose of these studies are as follows. And specific research method consisted of survey of domestic and foreign esports creators, setting categories of domestic and foreign esports creators, analysis of success and failure cases, and in-depth interviews and surveys of creators and experts selected by category. By achieving their research problems, the goal of this study is to identify the pros and cons of creator activities currently operated by the sports team and to lay the groundwork for positive improvements.
This is second presenter, Seungwon, and I'm gonna present about current state analysis. So before starting our actual research of the study, we have analyzed the current esports market, rising content creator market growth, and the current creator states of Korean esports team. First, esports market is constantly growing and even accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Since the online-related culture became the center of the public's life, and also most of the active sports like football or baseball have been reduced because of the pandemic expansion, esports became the largest sport in the COVID era. On the other side of the growth of esports market, content creator market has also shown a huge growth in the same environment. The online OTT platform like Netflix and YouTube have definitely became a main culture that impacts everything, and live streaming is keep rising through YouTube and Twitch. Young teenagers are also dreaming streamers as their future job, and even in Korea, 1 in 529 people are operating revenue-generating YouTube channel. This developing content creator market is where the esports team can utilize the most for their fan satisfaction and advertisement. This marketing strategy have been developed in the name of influencer marketing, and North America and Europe esports team are actively using it, such as C9 having more than hundreds of creators. When those North America and Europe teams has more than 30 creators for each, Korean team still has much smaller size on it. The largest Korean team, Genji, only has 17 content creators, and the team doesn't have any creators yet. We saw that the influencer marketing can develop the global esports market, but since it is not really familiar concept for Korean esports team, so we decided to collect the opinion of both of team and content creator and manipulate the research to provide a new developed direction for them. I will continue to talk about the interviews and researches that we have proceeded. So, in a situation where the esports industry and content creators cannot be separated, we felt that there was a need for research between those two, so we proceeded with the research. In this study, esports industry workers related to team content creator were limited to Korean team and team content creator managers of Korean esports team. Team content creator refers to video creators who post contents on the platform such as internet broadcasting streaming or YouTube, and also refers to creators belonging to Korean esports team. The team content creator managers mainly refers to the employees in charge of managing the content creator belonging to the esports team, and there are slight differences in the name for each esports team. We targeted interviews to collect as various opinions as possible. Not only do few esports team in Korea that has team content creator, but we thought it is appropriate to receive as many opinions as possible, considering that most esports team may have difficulty answering due to the external circumstances. We interviewed the two team content creators that are ex-professional gamer and two team content creator managers. We differentiated the team by the period of foundation. We would like to talk about the case of the team content creator that is an ex-professional player first. You can often see esports players who are not far away from retirement joining the team content creator upon retirement through suggestion from the team. We analyzed the reason why many professional gamers enter the path of content creator after retirement is that the instability of the future of professional gamer and streaming experience seems to play a major role in the background by this case. Before joining the team as content creator, it was found that they showed a burden on inconvenience that could occur during the broadcasting through the team. In addition, after joining the game, it was observed that they felt rather stable, which is believed to be because the team was responsible for many things to do when conducting personal broadcasting contents alone, and reducing the burden, and also receiving various help from the team. In addition, the fact that as they became a member of the team content creator, so had economic stability through regular income also had an impact. After they joined the team as content creator, esports team guarantees not only is economic stability, but also holding an event for fans, and they encourage viewers to watch the broadcasting of their content creator and also delivering special esports viewing experience to those viewers. Team content creators were able to gain more viewers with positive broadcast images by conducting joint contents with the team. However, on the contrary, there were cases where the contents requested by the team was not satisfied and was not appropriated as broadcast content. However, there were no coercion to continue the contents requested by the team, which could be accepted as a simple idea. So even if the team had the image it won, it could be understood as recommending an attempt rather than forcing it. Through this, unlike the vertical relationship between traditional companies and employees, it was possible to get a glimpse of the relationship between esports team and content creator that respect the autonomy of creators. Beyond suggesting personal broadcasting contents, the team also features team content creator in contents produced by the team level. In the case of representative contents that has been conducted with the team since joining the team, not only it is higher quality contents than personal contents, but it is also seen that creators feel less pressure in the broadcast. Usually, in the case of the team collaboration contents, the reason seems to be that it is close to a simple appearance, unlike the fact that one is in charge of planning various parts of the content in personal broadcasting. Since this is the case of specialized planned contents, there have been cases where the response of the contents were noticeably better than that of personal broadcasting contents. By participating in team collaboration content, team content creator went beyond gaining satisfaction and later set goals as a team content creator. From an annual salary increase to a small amount, it was also confirmed that they aimed at joint growth with the team based on their growth rather than relying unconditionally on the team. Next is the case of team content creator manager. Team content creator manager in charge of recruiting and managing team co-creator selected ways to promote the team and diversify contents and develop a career after the retirement of esports player and close consumer communication through creators as reason for operating team content creator. In the case of team that operate various type of creator, they were divided into general content creator, ex-professional player content creator, and overseas content creator, and giving different consideration, role, and expected effect and respect. Among them, in the case of general content creator, performing ability as an entertainer was mentioned as a consideration point when selecting. Content creators seems to value this as they are currently recognized as entertainer rather than just YouTubers and streamers. On the other hand, in the case of ex-professional players, competency as an entertainer is less important in terms of consideration, role, and content production strategy at the same time of selection than general content creator, but the specificity of professionals is considered. It can be seen that ex-professional gamer need support for broadcasting components such as building streaming room, including equipment, compared to general content creator. But the strengths of the former professional gamers turned team content creator is that kind of content creator is his expertise is a professional. So it was possible to understand that managers wanted to produce content as improve consumers' understanding by utilizing the strengths. In the case of abroad creators, it was found that the position of creators in abroad region, like NA or Europe, was considered the most important. One team not only laid the foundation for fans in abroad region through overseas creator, but also approached it at the business level. Also, comprehensively, officials were wary of recruiting many creators like MCN companies regardless of the team image. In addition, due to the nature of internet contents, also wary of the possibility of slang and harmful contents. This is a part that can be understood that the weight of the word affiliated is directly related to the image of the esports team. In addition to producing joint contents with team creators, the team also collaborate with external creators for one-time content. The reason for this was the diversification of contents, the burden as a member of the team, and the attitude of the other creator. However, even creators who collaborated with one-time contents are considering multiple collaborations if their chemistry with the team is good and seems to maintain a good relationship with the team. A relatively new team official showed an open attitude toward collaboration targets in producing one-time content. He embraced not only the team's fans, but also sponsor-related external creators as collaborative target. However, in the case of a team official, not a new team, it was positive for collaboration with fan creators, but when asked about external creators related to sponsor, she answered that they would only respond if requested by sponsor. In addition, even if it is not related to sponsor, the relevant official showed caution in using existing creators in the direction of entry of the team business. The creators' fragmentary knowledge worked in this way. Through the survey, it was found that the ex-professional team content creator is not only a content creator under the name of a team member, but a relationship that grows together with a team, with an esports team, and interact based on autonomous activities. Also, team officials or operating team content creators through differentiation of selection criteria and expected effects and content production method when managing multiple team content creator. In addition, the burden through the concept of belonging to the team is also recognized by team officials, which was intended to reserve by clearly separating the role of employees and creators. Furthermore, an interview with an official who considers multiple collaborations, if the team can achieve what they want through one-time content, even if it is not recruited as a team content creator, shows that it values the team's free content product strategy and guarantees solid output.
Now on conclusion and suggestion. We explored the success stories of YouTube voiceovers to confirm the practical efficiency of marketing in the OTT market. Mail Diary saw its sales rise 30% from 3 months ago in collaboration with YouTube creator. Kellogg gained recognition by targeting consumer participation in the OTT market. Nexon was able to build a stable server through various campaign and preliminary research to target. In addition, the target reach rate reached 73% and the CPI decreased by 53%. Based on this, our team proposed the Influencer League. This is expected to be more flexible than the existing professional leagues. For example, in the current professional league, esports are only played in the Summoner's Rift, but through Influencer, various aspects such as Howling Abyss and Ultra Rapid Fire can be seen in addition. There is a possibility that it will expand to the Teamfight Tactics Leagues, which belongs to other categories. In addition, the common denominator of Influencer has the advantage of being able to link the two fields that had nothing to do with it. For example, you can imagine a link between StarCraft and insurance. In 2018, life insurance accounts for 55.6% of those aged 25 to 39 in Korea. In the case of StarCraft, in 2007, it showed a high viewer rating of 33.88% for those aged 13 to 25. Judging from the present, there is a common denominator between the ages of 20 and 25. Based on these, if influencer which previously dealt with insurance-related content participates in the StarCraft Influencer League, both industries will be able to expect a win-win effect. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ryu Hae-yeon, Kwak Seung-won, Park Da-won, and Lee Ha-seung. Once again, congratulations for being selected at the contest. Next is the research request presentation. The presentation is also about the research project selected through the World Esports Academic Competition 2021 and will be presented by Dr. Claude Stricker and Christy Ducart from IESF. The topic of presentation is Global Economic Impact of Esports, the value chains of esports stakeholders. Let's listen to the presentation.
I would like to thank the IESF for your continued investment into education and research and for your valued trust in working together with the IESF since 2018. Our project manager in charge of this research, Mrs. Christy Duke-Hart, graduate from our Master in Sport, will now provide you with more details about the methodology we will follow for measuring the global economic impact of esports. Christy holds a Master of Science in Accounting and benefits from over 10 years' experience in consulting at EY and PwC in the areas of audit and mergers, as well as in general accounting and financial analysis in the private sector. Up to you, Christy.
Thank you, Claude, and good afternoon. As Dr. Stricker mentioned, my name is Christy Ducart, and I am the project manager for this research award granted by the IESF. My next few slides will provide you with an overview of the global economic impact of esports, as well as the value chain of the esports stakeholders we are looking into. According to a survey completed by PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2020, esports is the fastest growing category among all sports. The objectives of this research are to understand if this growth projection is accurate, will continue, and if the global esports industry is both sustainable and profitable for the key stakeholders. In order to accomplish this, we will look at the revenue and cost models of key stakeholders. We will then map out and analyze the value chain. And lastly, we will look at potential business models that could assist in ensuring sustainability and profitability for those stakeholders. According to a report issued by Deloitte, there are some critical issues for the sports industry to evaluate in 2021. The first item on that list is to reevaluate and redesign the business models, especially around revenue generation. This is because the traditional methods of revenue generation, such as ticketing, have been drastically impacted by the global pandemic. The esports industry is not as dependent on in-person fan attendance as traditional sports. However, the global market is seeing shifts in how the business is developing. Much like traditional sports, IP owners and professional players are the highest paid stakeholders. The question is there a business model where all stakeholders can maintain their business going forward and with a profit? Another critical item in the report issued by Deloitte is a call for sports organizations to redefine their relationship with fans. This is where esports has an opportunity to help leagues, teams, and athletes boost fan engagement. As an example, during the pandemic when sports came to a halt, an NBA team, the Phoenix Suns, simulated their regular season games on NBA 2K and streamed it live on Twitch. The debut stream had more than 221,000 viewers. This begs the question, is there a market for this? Given the shifts in the market due to the pandemic, as well as the shifts in the growing esport industry, it is important to reevaluate the current business model and to evaluate how the current shifts in the business will impact the industry. This information, along with the understanding of value generated by the various stakeholders, can be utilized to create a business model that would provide profitability and sustainability into the future for all stakeholders within the esport industry. The key research questions that will be investigated as part of this research are: who are the stakeholders in esports? What are the current revenues and costs for stakeholders? Is it as large as the media makes it out to be? How does the value chain flow? Where are there opportunities for revenue and growth for stakeholders? And lastly, where are opportunities for minimizing risk for stakeholders? To accomplish this research, there are 4 overall steps to the methodology. The first step will be to understand the esports industry. Who are the primary stakeholders? What regions drive esports? And where are there opportunities geographically? Lastly, what is the current business model? To accomplish this step, we will first collect financial data to build the revenue and cost models of the key stakeholders. We will also collect qualitative data to understand the strategy of the key stakeholders. The next step will be to understand the value chain. Who is involved? How do they provide value? And do they receive any value? This will help us to understand not just the financial side of the industry, but also to identify and understand the value each stakeholder is both creating and capturing. We can use this data to identify where there is opportunity for added value. Next, we will conduct a case study of some of the key stakeholders to evaluate what they do well and where there is room for improvement. This step will help us start identifying potential strategies that could facilitate sustainability and profitability for all stakeholders. Lastly, based on the research and data we have collected, we will propose a business model and recommendations that could assist in assuring a sustainable and profitable esports industry. As part of the methodology of understanding the industry, we'll complete a SWOT analysis, starting by identifying the internal strengths and weaknesses of each key stakeholder. What do they do well? How can they be more effective? Identifying the strengths and weaknesses will be critical, as these are factors that are within the control of the company and can be improved going forward. Then we will look at the external factors, the opportunities and threats, those things which impact the stakeholders that are not within their control. Organizations can prepare for these external factors if they can properly identify them. Completing this SWOT analysis will help us to better understand the position each stakeholder and help us to find a more effective way for stakeholders to position themselves in the market. In addition, we will also complete a value chain analysis study. To understand these stakeholders' position in the market, the linkages of interconnected activity between each stakeholder must be understood. This analysis will help us to better identify each stakeholder's competitive position. These different analyses will help us to formulate strategies to improve each key stakeholder's position in the industry going forward into the future. In 2021, it is estimated that the esports industry will generate more than $1 billion in revenues, up from $947 million in 2020. That represents a year-over-year growth of almost 15%. Of those anticipated revenues, it is estimated that $834 million will come from media rights and sponsorship alone. That represents just over 75% of the total revenues expected. The global games live streaming audience is expected to hit almost 729 million in 2021, a growth of 10% from 2020. These figures indicate tremendous growth, supporting the earlier assertion that esports is the fastest growing category amongst all sports. So how is this represented geographically? And who are the stakeholders that are part of this growth? Historically, esports has grown much faster in the developed economies of North America and Western Europe. This was due to a more sophisticated IT infrastructure. Major esports games were also mostly played on a PC, which posed significant entry barriers for those living in developing markets. This is set to change as we are now reaching a point where smartphones are more accessible than ever. With the addition of controllers and paddles, they offer gaming experience that is on par with what PC gaming or console gaming provides. This presents major opportunities for Southeast Asia, where mobile gaming dominates. Southeast Asia is seeing the fastest revenue growth in the global esports industry. Total revenues are expected to grow from $28.2 million in 2019 up to $72 million in 2024. In terms of audience, the region is anticipating 42.5 million viewers by the end of 2021. A majority of these will come from the countries of Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. These countries are unique to the Southeast Asia region in that they are all mobile first when it comes to game preferences. After geography, we will also look at the key stakeholders identified in the esports industry. At this stage of our research, key stakeholders identified include players and influencers, including both pro and amateur players, game publishers, sponsors and advertisers, broadcasting platforms, teams, organizers, and of course, consumers. Other stakeholders we have identified include investors, federations, sports clubs, equipment suppliers, and educators, such as coaches. To provide a few examples, we'll dive into a bit more detail on two of these key stakeholders we've identified, as well as two of the other stakeholders identified. Over the last decade, esports has grown into an industry that rivals traditional sports. Companies have taken notice, and as a result, we see sponsorship and advertising taking on a vital role in the esports industry. While the pandemic did impact esports globally, it is the one industry that showed impressive resilience during the pandemic, especially when compared to other industries. Top esports sponsors were a big part of this, providing the cash needed to keep the esports economy going. At this point in our research, we have identified several companies who have become large sponsors in the global esports industry, including, but not limited to, Red Bull, Mountain Dew, BMW, Intel, Coca-Cola, FTX, and the US Air Force. Esports teams have amassed giant value, with some of the top teams in the world having a brand value of $250 to $350 million. FaZe Clan, Team Liquid, Cloud9, Fnatic, and Team Envy are just a few of the top esports teams around the world. Teams generate value through winning tournaments, merchandise sales, and of course, sponsorships. Much like traditional sports teams, organizations spend a bulk of their earnings on salary, trying to recruit the best players. Also, like traditional sports teams, some esports teams are now hiring coaching staff, team managers, personal fitness trainers, and mental health coaches, all with the intention of supporting their teams and creating the best teams possible. As previously mentioned, esports is a potential effective way for sports clubs to not only engage more fans, but also as a potential way to generate revenue. Thus far in 2021, FIFA 21 is the most popular sport genre esports game. The game boasts over 17,000 players, more than 700 teams, as well as over 90 stadiums and more than 30 leagues that players can experience. UEFA Champions League, Premier League, and La Liga are just a few examples of competitions that gamers have access to. The future of sports clubs within the esports industry will need to be evaluated as part of the new business model to understand if it can be both profitable and sustainable for organizations going forward. Federations are also stakeholders, playing an important role in the development of rules and regulations for the esports industry. They also govern doping within esports. The IESF specifically has a mission to further esports on a global scale by working with national federations to grow the sport. With the global reach these federations have, it is important to factor them into the understanding of both the current and future esports industry. So how do all of these stakeholders fit together? That is what we will investigate as part of the research. We will explore whether or not each of these key stakeholders provides value, and if so, how. Do these key stakeholders capture value? If so, how and from who? Understanding the value chain will be essential for the team to develop a business model that is both sustainable and profitable for the industry. So what do we know about value and revenue chains at this point? Pro players and influencers attract fans to the team as well as to events. They are earning through various means, including salary from their team, personal sponsorships, and merchandise sales. Some players also stream their play on different platforms, such as YouTube, which could gain additional revenue for them if they generate enough views. Much like in traditional sports, they are the stars of the global esports industry. Game publishers or developers gain value through licensing, as well as through exposure of their game at various events. Historically, they earned their revenue through game sales, but with the market shifting towards free games via mobile apps, more and more of these developers are generating revenue through in-app purchases throughout the game. Broadcasting rights is another way in which game publishers can generate revenue. Sponsors are primarily driven to advertise to create brand awareness. They do this by advertising at events, as well as placing their logo wherever possible, including on uniforms and on websites, for example. This value can come from broadcasting platforms, event organizers, teams, and the players themselves. Continuing on, broadcasting platforms such as Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube are responsible for how content is distributed within esports. These broadcasting platforms generate revenue through advertisements, as well as through subscriptions from consumers. The primary responsibility and value they offer is a stable platform so that viewers can watch events uninterrupted. Teams, much like traditional sports teams, generate value through the players on their roster. Their primary means of earnings are through sponsorship, prize money, and merchandise sales. Last up are the organizers. This group gains value by the teams that compete in their events. They must generate a large enough audience to gain the attention of top teams and generate revenue from sponsorship. Production value and content, as well as the players and teams competing, are two critical factors that draw in consumers. By completing this research, skills in research and financial analysis will be developed. Strategic thinking skills will also be developed. Not only is it important to think strategically to develop a sustainable and profitable business model, but it will also be important to take into consideration and evaluate the risk of failure or changes based on government regulations as seen in China. Overall, we anticipate learning and sharing with the IESF a great deal about the esports industry. Thank you so much for attending our session. We look forward to a great collaboration with the IESF.
Thank you, Dr. Claude and Christy. Now, I'm here in front of Blue Space. This is a multi-purpose room equipped with the latest 64 gaming PCs. Various events such as esports competition and lectures are held here. We will have an invited research session here in the Blue Space. The IESF has invited 2 researchers with careful consideration. First, let's listen to Dr. Pei-Chi Chung's presentation from the Chinese University of Hong Kong on the topic of sustainable ecosystem development and esports higher education.
Hi, greeting from Hong Kong. I first of all would like to thank IESF for giving me this very precious opportunity to present my presentation, the research here. The title of my presentation is Sustainable Ecosystem Development in Esports Higher Education. My name is Pei-Chi Chung and I'm from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. So here you'll be able to see 3 areas of the content that I'll be presenting in my talk today. I first of all would like to introduce a bit of some of the research background for my talk, and then to explain a little bit about why I'm initiating it with my research focus in this area. I come from the discipline of humanity, so a lot of time I focus on my research about studying the meaning of esports culture and also the contribution that this particular culture can be linked to a particular kind of public policy. So what I'm hoping today is to share my research point of view, and then hopefully I'll be able to I would like to invite conversation with many of the talented people here who are concerned about esports industry development. So the second part of my research is about the sharing of some of the observation that I found in the past few years after talking to peoples in the industry in Korea. Then at the end of my research, I would like to extend my concern into some of the thought that I have, particularly on esports higher education. So here you'll be able to see some of the pictures that I took during the few years when I conduct my research. The larger project of this research is about to understanding the ecosystem. Esports is this ecosystem in East Asia. Particularly what I'm focusing on today is based upon some observation of an article and an article that I had written on the esports ecosystem in South Korea. So I received this. I received a research grant funding from the government, Hong Kong government, in 2017. So I started my field visit to Seoul at that time. So I made my first trip to Seoul and talked to many people in the field. And then at that time, I was starting from fresh to try to understand what has been the type of interesting industry dynamic that has triggered the esports culture, growing esports culture in the region. So I want to know a bit about the most developed esports industry field in the world in South Korea. And I still remember I visited the IESF office in Seoul. And then it was really amazing to see how the organization has transformed from that time till now. So here are some of the pictures of the places that I visit, and then it shows some kind of connection that I have by visiting too many different places here. All right, so based upon my research, I actually published a book, an edited book called "Edited" with another professor in Boston, on a book called Media Technology for Work and Play in East Asia. So what I'm presenting today is actually one of the chapters from the book that I edited. And the book was published in May 2021. So this book actually provides a critical an entry to have developed some kind of critical perspective to observe some of the emerging cultural sphere, in Northeast East Asia. And then what I'm presenting today is actually one of the core area that I find very intriguing to kind of spotlight the things, the kind of emerging techno-culture dynamic that happen in the region. So in the book, we sort of developed the book into 3 categories. So some of the chapter talk about gender, some of the chapter talk about governance, and some of the chapter talk about labor. And what I'm offering today is actually to provide a kind of labor-centric perspective to understand the esports industry in South Korea. So in my chapter of South Korean esports, I mainly want to look for a particular kind of labor change, the new labor definition in the area of esports by including the concept of player power. So I'm trying to find the meaning of labor power in the context of competitive play. A lot of time, people in the discipline of media study and also game study are very focusing on the observation of the industry from the labor perspective. So I'm hoping that with the chapter that I'll be able to provide a certain kind of alternative meaning to contextualize the society, especially in East Asian societies, very interesting conception on playing. I'm playing game for long hours, and then some kind of stereotype to talk about playing game to be a form of unproductive play, especially when it's in addiction and also context that students are dropping out from school. So my question here in the chapter is to talk about how players, especially esports player, has been producing some kind of interesting culture that show us the power of restructuring the relationship, with different Asians that are contributing to the dynamic of the industry in digital gaming, especially in East Asia. And also, I'm also hoping to find out the political and economic context of South Korea's esports industry. And also particularly finding out the contribution for nonprofit organizations such as KSPA and also IESF in advancing player awareness, both locally and globally. I'm also hoping to find out the amateur esport with my focus on to see how they are becoming part of this labor system in esport. So basically, I want to talk about player power as an academic point of view to study the larger debate in social science tradition regarding digital labor condition. So what I'm finding is that actually trying to argue is that actually play has become an interesting area that blur the boundary between professional and amateur player. So a lot of time we're looking at the passion that's being developed by esports player or esports gamer, the will for playing to strike, right? So this kind of intention for play to thrive, despite challenges that the esports community face from the public institution worldwide, especially when we talk about the negative impact of game addiction. My analysis that I will be presenting later is based upon the kind of contextualized as voices that I heard within the larger society structure to highlight a certain kind of dilemma that I'm observing from esports player. A lot of time when they are in the process of developing their career, what are the kind of social circumstances that has been produced, produced, and then what will be the kind of critical moment that we should be take into consideration when we try to understand things that happen in the area with the perspective intention for creating more diversity and also public welfare in esports governance. So here I would like to talk a bit about the kind of research framework that I want to bring in for talking about the labor-centric perspective. So a lot of time we're seeing, especially in game study, we're seeing a lot of discussion that talks about the transformation for play to work. So originally when we talk about play is a lot of time people play is an activity that people look for pleasure. But when we are looking at work condition, a lot of time people try to find their productive talent for satisfaction, to fulfill a certain meaning of their life. So very interestingly, professional players start from leisure that I observe, and then because of some passion and also some skill that they obtain in the process, that player originally were just playing for leisure, but then later they become playing for professional work. So we're seeing this this very interesting transition from the position of play to the position of work. So especially for esports player in the very competitive play, a lot of time we're also seeing skills that are being developed for a celebrity player that they are receiving a lot of attention from audiences through by watching all of the tournament videos on streaming platform. So a lot of time when we look at the transition to enter this work area, what we should be more focusing on or paying more attention is this possibility of when players are becoming to consider their play as a form of a professional work production, then what is the possibility, possible situation that we are observing to be representing, reflecting a form of exploitation, especially within the context of corporation in relation to gamers, right? So adding competition, esport, the meaning of play change, and miraculously when we see esport player start to add competition and high power performance into their form of playing in their competition. So within this process, transformation process, we probably should be asking the question about inequality. At what perspective inequality happens, and especially we want to develop a sustainable ecosystem, then that may be certain area that we should be paying attention to. So employment dimension of work, there can be one aspect to be glamorous, but then there can also be another aspect that players are having precarious working condition. So here, this is the sort of dilemma that we are observing when the transition change from play to work. To the reskilling process, the player are able to have much more higher capability of a social engaging, social interaction from machine between human and machine. Does this kind of reskill, obtaining the new skill, providing a better world for this player? So here, this is the observation that I found in particular in the ecosystem that's being developed in South Korea. I am particularly looking into this non-corporation area because I think these are more interesting, more important when we want to see how inequality can be supported with resolution in this dimension. So KSPOT and also IESF are the two very important nonprofit organizations that's most of the time associated with the support from the government, that they contribute to the development of the industry. So these two organizations show a very particular kind of player-led innovation ecosystem that's very unique in the East Asian context and also in around the world as well. So the efforts, a lot of contribution and also a lot of work that the two institutions have done actually contribute to the country to becoming the leader of the esports field in the region. So we can see some of the work done by the two institutions, especially about creating a kind of standardization for creating a fair play environment to contribute with the program to support player qualification, recognition, to enforce standard, and also to encourage fair competition, both locally and also internationally. So this is the kind of fair environment that we see that the two institutions have contributed to. And what I find particularly interesting is in a lot of players that I interview with, there's a very interesting things that happens that I find maybe that's also one of the reasons that's contributing to the sustainability for the industry development. So some of the these are the emerging, most of the players that I interview with, they want to become professional player. But since this is such a competitive industry, competitive field, then not many of them were able to succeed, right? So automatically there was this interesting development that people who proceed halfway in their professional career, when they decide that they are not going to further to pursue, they voluntarily decide to stay and then try to create their own business. So I'm observing new kind of emerging professional area for thinking about the meaning of sustainable development. There's a high level player that went into creating all kind of industry value chain that I'm observing with all kind of business. So I'm also seeing the expansion of the professional esport into an amateur and also semi-amateur level. You will be able to see from the chart here that some of the amateur player or semi-professional, when they decide they are going to retire, they became farm manager, they become shoutcaster, and also become game channel streamer or data analyst, all kind of work that is based on the passion of with the esport field. And I think this shows a very interesting and also important aspect when we are talking about satisfaction that a person can receive from work, and also the kind of happiness they will be able to, people will be able to find out from work when they are able to initiate a particular kind of self-driven motivation to decide what they are going to do in their career. So this is the kind of new kind of labor condition that is happening. But then I would like to bring that into the current framework that comes from the corporation perspective. Those players who quit halfway in their professional journey, are those the responsibility of the corporation to think about how they will be able to transit in the process. All right. So here, I also want to share some interesting cases. I find that there are 5 areas that I find people particularly find it passionate to develop in their career into. So for example, in business category, in education category, in media, in regulation, and also in emerging talent. So here with some of the people who fall into the category A, I find this strong passion from the people that I talk to, that they're considering their opportunity to create a particular kind of cultural business for esports. So this is very few when we talk about cultural business and then the creative, effective labor production skill, right? So the team manager and also PR entrepreneur are the particular kind of talent that I find that they transform their passion into a particular kind of creative entrepreneurship. And the second category is for the education. Some of the talents became the professor. So we are now also seeing a lot of expertise being applied and transferred into the higher education level. So we are seeing the many department and also many university in South Korea started to develop this esports department. It is because of this rich experience and also skill that the semi-professional player develop in their process, in their professional journey when in play, that they'll be capable of developing skill to lead coach, to become a coach, and sometimes they have to travel to international. For example, I traveled to China to develop esports curriculum. So this kind of expertise has also become popular among the students, especially their special talent will be able to let them provide suitable voices to teach those young talent who are coming from their amateur position to think about what they want to position themselves in the society. So in another category is the new jobs that I observe in the media sector, right? So a lot of players, they have the expertise and then they develop their particular interesting broadcasting style. And then they also create their channels in YouTube and also Twitch to kind of share the particular kind of broadcasting style that's humorous, that's funny, but at the same time, that's also very precise in making commentary. But this is also in the very starting stage that a lot of time the player will have to struggle in between of making monetization from their career. So the category D is about how players, when they are familiar with the PC bump culture, they'll be able to help the government, work as a government officer to implement the kind of network relationship they have, and then continue to help the government to manage fund, to allocate fund, to support different team, and also support different kind of tournament that kind of continue to cultivate the particular kind of public, esports tournament and competition culture in South Korea. But this is also challenging because by kind of maintaining the esport policy in the government office, a lot of time we have to talk about big budget and also high spending for hosting the event. So the category E are those people that I find as emerging young talent who actually are participating in the amateur tournament. A lot of time when they are really good, they already have contract, waiting for them after they graduate, right? But then a lot of time there's also this dilemma that they're facing, especially when they turn from amateur to become professional, that they will be starting to feel the stress of winning the game after they join the league. A lot of time, the life is about long hours of practice and also last time to see the family. I particularly find that the inner psychological state of this young talent require our attention, especially if they are at a very young age, but then they're also responsible for the success of the game corporation and also their sponsor. So here we are seeing in the case that there's this kind of transformative process that we observe that blur the boundary between work and play. But then we probably also, when we see the value chain in the making for South Korea, that we're seeing new job title appearing by the effort for this amateur and semi-professional player. Probably we are also responsible or thinking more about this meaning of the public sphere for a healthy ecosystem. What are the issues that deserve our attention, and how do we make these people continue to stay in the industry to develop further? So here that comes with my idea about the importance of higher education. So especially we're in this post-pandemic society, that there's this growing acceptance about, the very unique kind of digital environment that's very similar to esport competition. So what is the public model that we can go beyond the corporation to consider for creating a universe that's filled with higher possibility of long-term happiness and also satisfaction in the ecosystem? So currently, I'm arguing that there should be an all-inclusive framework that consider esport ecosystem merely with a focus on sports. So now we are staying in this sports paradigm, but then there should be some value to develop into other areas, for example, like in business and emerging conversion technology, in continuous professionalization training in the sports discipline, and particularly in the field of humanity. I think player welfare, the health, mental well-being is particularly something that's important for people who are in the field of humanity and social science study. So my conclusion is that there should be a kind of positive consideration for the positive development player power to kind of continue with this direction to overcome a lot of stigma that's being triggered by this phenomena on play to assess. Like, play is becoming more than what the society wants. So it's the higher education can look into the area that set up a good relationship between self-development and also the relationship of power play to community and society. So this is my presentation, and I hope that it's a helpful or informative sharing, and I look forward to your feedback and conversation in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think it was a very informative presentation on the topic of esports ecosystem and education. This presentation was also invited by IESF. Professor Gilfried from the University of West Florida will give us a presentation on the topic of esports event security, a case study.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World eSport Academic Seminar 2021. And my name is Gil Fried, and it is my pleasure to be here with you and to share a case study that I'm working on, which hopefully will give you some insight into risk management and security practices as it relates to eSport events. Now, I have to give a disclaimer from the very beginning, and that disclaimer is that we are talking about the EA Madden 19 tournament in Jacksonville, Florida, and a shooting that occurred there a couple of years ago. I am intimately involved in this case because I was the expert witness for EA Sports in all the cases. But what I'm sharing with you today is public knowledge, and I'm not getting into any of the facts of the case that are more proprietary or secret or anything else like this. This is all public information, as well as my perceptions from going through the cases, which just settled a couple of weeks ago. So this is very fresh, very new, and I want to make sure I could share that with you. So welcome to eSport Event Security, a case study of the Jacksonville shooting case by Gil Fried. Before we go to the slides, let me just indicate that I am a professor and department chair at the University of West Florida. So Jacksonville is not far from me. It's about maybe 6-7 hours away by driving. But America is big, so in some countries I could go from one side of the country to another, but for us it's just from one part of the state to another part of the state. And for those that saw me present a couple of years ago in Busan, I was at the University of New Haven. I have now switched allegiances, and I'm with the University of West Florida, and happy to be here in this sunny state. So let's go from there. Let's go to the first slide on here, and that's slide number 2, Jacksonville shooting cases. So there's some things that we know about this case. We know that the shooter, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to give him any credibility or respect or anything else. He was a 24-year-old man from Maryland who drove down from Maryland to Jacksonville for the tournament. So he went with an intent to cause harm. There were people that traveled all over the United States to be at the event because this is one of 4 qualifiers to get to Las Vegas to compete in the major Madden tournament. And so this was one of the qualifying events. The shooter was there the first day, did not engage in any inappropriate conduct or anything else. And on the second day, after he lost a match, is when he ended up shooting a number of people. He killed 2 individuals, 2 people that were competing in the tournament. He injured 11 people, and then he shot himself. The entirety of the shooting incident lasted just a couple of seconds. It was very, very fast. The shooter drove to the tournament with 2 guns. He also had ammunition, and he was there with an intent to cause harm to other people. That represents one of the concerns when we look at liability, is what should be your responsibility when someone else engages in inappropriate conduct? Can you stop someone? I was the expert witness in the Aurora Theater shooting cases, and in all of those cases, the plaintiffs lost because the jury ended up coming back saying, yes, while the theater did a number of things wrong, this guy was intent on causing harm, and it doesn't matter what the theaters would have done, he would have done something to harm others. And that's something that we have to keep in the back of our mind. There's no 100% way to protect individuals when people are so determined to cause harm to others. There were about 117 participants in this tournament. It wasn't a huge tournament. There weren't a lot of fans. There were some fans there, and they paid, but the fans that were there were primarily associated with some of the other tournament players. This happened at a restaurant, so it wasn't a huge venue. It wasn't like a large arena or anything else like that. The shooting, as I said before, happened on the second day of the tournament with no problems at all the first day of tournament, and there was a smaller crowd on the second day because of eliminations that occurred during the first day of the tournament. There was also no warning about the attack, and that's important because one of the issues with liability is foreseeability, and here there was no foreseeability. That's the pause, and now we go to slide 3. And this is called slide 2 as it relates to Jacksonville shooting cases. We also know that EA had contracted with a third party to operate the event. This was not an EA Electronic Arts event. This was an event put on by Chicago Pizza, and they had their own club, so to speak, in the back of their restaurant, which was an esport competition area, an area where they were generating revenue from esport games being played and from tournaments being held there and things like that. It had a gaming lounge. It also had a gaming license, or I should say an alcohol license to be able to serve alcohol. So there was alcohol at the venue, a full service kitchen, and everything else was there. They had run close to 20 prior events. These events were primarily fighting-based esport events. They did not have any issues at all with any of these other events. The owner of Chicago Pizza, who's an esport player and was knowledgeable about esports, he was there to help run the tournament along with a colleague that was brought in to help share some of the possible revenue. All the revenue from the event would have gone to Chicago Pizza. They were the ones in the position to make the money. They were the ones that EA had contracted with, saying, you are the ones that are running this tournament. It was their tournament. It just so happened to have EA's name associated with it. Now we go to slide number 4. And this is slide number 3 in terms of the facts of the Jacksonville shooting case. Chicago Pizza was part of a mall. So this was not a freestanding restaurant. It was part of a larger establishment where they had a number of other restaurants and shops and things like that. The mall provided security, but the security was a roving security designed to protect the mall, not a specific restaurant or venue. There was mixed testimony if there was knowledge by the security company of the tournament or the mall ownership if they knew about the tournament. But there was security that had come through on Saturday, and they should have known what was going on if they had a presence there, but there was no specific request to have security there. So that's important to understand. Chicago Pizza did not notify the police about the tournament. Chicago Pizza sold alcohol at the event, but because this was in the middle of the day, it wasn't like large amounts of alcohol traditionally seen at football games. Now, they used to bring in security for major football games such as Florida versus Alabama or some of the other games that might be broadcast, but this event they did not bring in any security. Chicago Pizza also did not have any safety, security, or risk management plan in place other than what they normally have for their restaurant. And so there was nothing in writing to indicate what should have been the protocols in place. And then that is something of contention, because do you need to have a full written security plan for a small tournament like this compared to what might be seen at an event where you might have 18,000 fans in attendance. Moving on to the next slide. This is slide number 5. This is a picture of the GLHF, which stands for Good Luck, Have Fun game bar, and that was inside Chicago Pizza. This is the police tape on the outside after the shooting with a police investigator there in this photo. The next photo is or slide number 6. It's a photo of Elijah Clayton. He was one of the 2 victims. He had won a number of Madden tournaments in the past. Here's a picture of one that he had won where he was the champion of the Jaguars Madden tournament. There also was another well-known gamer who also had passed away as well. There supposedly was some hostility between Mr. Clayton and the shooter, and that might have been something which triggered the shooter to target him in particular, but who knows, because we don't know the motivation of the shooter. All right, so that brings us to slide 7, called the cases. And so the cases that were filed involved Jacob Mitich, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, versus Electronic Arts. They also sued Jacksonville Landing, which is the mall. They sued Chicago Pizza. They sued the owner of Chicago Pizza. They also sued the mall security. Now, EA was sued in part because they are deep pockets. And so deep pockets are always going to be named in a lawsuit in the United States. In the United States, probably one of the biggest pastimes that we see is not football or basketball or soccer, is blaming. We want to blame people. And it's quite unfortunate when that happens because sometimes people will use emotions and even though someone might not have done anything wrong, a jury could be swayed one way or another by the emotions of seeing pictures of the deceased or people who have had their lives altered by a crime or an incident or whatever it might be. So that's something that has to be in the back of the mind, and that's why so many cases in America get settled before it goes to a jury, because you never know what a jury might decide. In total, there were a number of injured parties and their heirs who sued. So if there were like the 2 deceased players, they could not sue because they are no longer with us, and so their families sued. But there also were people who were injured, not just the 11 who were injured, but some of the people who had post-traumatic stress disorder and other incidences of mental anguish associated with being there at the event. There were a number of defendants, and I previously mentioned them, and the basic claim was negligence. Negligence is a failure to act in a reasonably prudent manner. And you're held to a standard of what would people in the industry have done. And that's what you're trying to really do. Now, EA is one of the biggest leaders in the electronic sports area, in the esport area. So they are held to a high standard similar to other publishers such as Activision Blizzard or Take-Two or some of the other ones that are out there. So the basic claim was negligence, such as negligent event production, that they didn't put on the event correctly, or negligent contracting with an event organizer, basically claiming that EA should never have gone into a contract with Chicago Pizza because Chicago Pizza does not have the skill or ability to put on this event. At least that is what could be the claim. All right, so let's go to slide 8, which is the plaintiff's claim. Even though the contract said Chicago Pizza was responsible for running the event, and it explicitly said that in the contract, the plaintiffs claimed a couple different things. That this was a major event because this is part of a qualifying for a major tournament in Las Vegas, that this was a big show and that EA should have been more involved in it. They also claimed basically that EA provided some of the prizes. One of the prizes for the top 2 finishers were the ability to travel to the Madden Championship in Las Vegas. So they said because there were prizes, even though all the other prizes like cash prizes were given by Chicago Pizza, that this could be something where people could say, well, EA is giving prizes, so they are more heavily involved in it. I said, this is my perception of what the plaintiffs were claiming in this case. Plaintiffs also are basically looking at EA promoted the event, because when you signed on to play Madden, that there would be screenshots showing, here are some of the qualifying events, here's some of the tournaments that are out there. So their basic claim was that EA was going to be trying to promote this event, so it's really their event kind of thing. They also claimed that EA provided some equipment. Now, these were some of the test equipment that they had. And so they were controllers that are not traditionally sold in the store, but are designed to be able to test what's going on. And because this is considered a higher level kind of controller, they're saying, well, maybe EA was more involved because they provided these controllers, but providing the controls also provides the ability to control the game a little bit better. So is that really an issue? Also, there was one employee who attended the event from EA, and he was there to make sure that things went smoothly in terms of recording what was going on. And part of this was due to the fact that this was just launched maybe a week or two before this tournament. So this was part of the major launch, and they didn't want any glitches to go on. And they wanted accuracy in terms of scores being recorded, because there have been past instances where that wasn't the case. There also were two engineers who were part of the game development team from EA, who just so happened to live not far from there, and they decided to drive up just to see how it was interacting and what was going on. So these are all part of the known facts of it, but like everything else, you could take known facts and twist them almost any way you want, and that happens in a lot of different cases. And so basically what the plaintiffs were trying to show was that there was a nexus, a connection between EA and the event. Just trying to make it seem like, hey, EA, yeah, you did some major events in the past, and in those major events, you had security. So this is an event, and this is basically, in our opinion, a major event, even though it wasn't huge, not a lot of spectators, not at a large venue, none of that kind of stuff. But it's your event, and so you should have made sure that you were responsible for security, even though there was never any indication whatsoever that there was ever going to be any problems, nor was there any past incidences similar to this which would put them on notice, or anyone in our industry on notice. Slide 9. The plaintiff's argument that EA should have vetted CP more thoroughly is part of what they were trying to look at, saying, look, you should have known better, that this was a small-time operator. But there are small-time operators who put on great events. So they had the history. This is something that wasn't a fly-by-night company. They were a restaurant that had been in business for years and put on many, many major events at the venue. So they had experience. So how do you judge that? That's something you don't want to be in the hands of a jury to determine whether or not someone is appropriate or not. But the plaintiffs were claiming that EA hosted major events where security was provided in the past. But these were major events where they had top players throughout the world that might be coming in, major cash tournaments, or tournaments that were at their studios or other individual studios, or at major venues such as Madison Square Garden, or wherever it might be, and that, hey, look at, you should have brought it to that level. But that's not the standard. And that's what we have to be careful of, is that people from outside the industry can come in and try to say, well, this is what you should have done. But it's our industry that should be the ones dictating what goes on. And that's why we have to speak with the unified voice. And that's why International Esports Federation is so important in helping to establish and set those standards. Slide 10. The plaintiff's claim against Chicago Pizza. The plaintiffs claimed that Chicago Pizza was not qualified. They did not communicate with key stakeholders like police, security, people like that. They did not implement any security plans, whether it is monitoring people, whether it's screening people at the door, whatever it was. They also claimed that the venue was too small. Even though that has nothing to do with the event, because you could have crimes occur in small little spaces, like a phone booth even, kind of thing. They had too many people at the event is one of their claims, and they modified their venue in violation of building codes. Now, that is up to interpretation whether or not they did or did not control the building and if that violated the building code. But that just represents part of the strategy in lawsuits. You try throwing the kitchen sink at people to try to show, okay, you did something wrong and that you're not the best character. Slide number 11. The plaintiff's claims as it relates to the gaming industry. And this is an important consideration. While the industry was not on trial, it actually was on trial. And I've seen this before in cases involving such as the NFL and organizations like that, where what they do is they try to say, well, you have a culture of drunken people at a football game, so if someone has anything to drink, they're probably drunk and you probably overserve them and you should be the responsible party. What the plaintiffs were trying to claim here is that the esports was an environment with toxic masculinity. You know, these men who are like, I'm a macho man, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and a lot of trash talking, all the potential for violence. Some players who might have been suspended at different times from different platforms. That was one of the things that they kept trying to highlight is the shooter here had an issue one time with his account with EA, and that should have put them on notice. But how many people don't pay, don't do this, don't do that, whatever it is, and their account could be suspended. But that's one of the things that they were trying to highlight, that, well, as an industry, we should know better, and that if someone has had past incidences with their account with a publisher, that they should not be participating in a game. Well, that's not the standard, because people have their accounts suspended for so many different reasons. And even if they're trash talking or saying inappropriate or homophobic or racial slurs or whatever it is, that doesn't mean that they're going to cause any violence kind of thing. So is it a stretch? So they're trying to lambaste our entire industry. These types of broad sweeps of generalities can be seen in other contexts, so we just have to be careful for it. So what was the results of this? The cases were settled with the last two cases, and this is slide 12. The cases were settled with the last two cases settling a couple days before the trial was supposed to begin. This is common in America. It's called settling at the courthouse steps. What was possibly the best result was that we now have a better understanding of these types of incidences and how we can, as an industry, protect ourselves. So what are some of the lessons learned? This is slide 13. Publishers and major events are the deep pockets that everyone goes for. We just have to be aware of them. We have to protect ourselves. And the more we can try to establish what are best practices, I don't like to call them standards because every event is different, the better it is, because we can then show, okay, you did X, Y, and Z, and that's what we want from events. We also have to take care with the contracts, even if you put certain elements into a contract. And you could have everything in the contract saying you're responsible for everything for the event. Someone could come and say, well, that's not good enough. So the best way to write your contracts is to be as clear as possible and highlight specific duties. We're asking you to do X, Y, Z. And always follow up with insurance. That could be a critical part of the contracting process, because your insurance carrier might have very specific rules that they want you to follow, which they might think is a best practice to follow. Slide 14. Security is now on the radar for even smaller events. This is something that's important for us because security was on the radar for large events. When we're doing it at major stadiums or arenas, it is a major issue, and we've been taking care of that for years. But even small events should, there be guides put out by the publisher indicating this is a strategy to help make your event safer. Because even today, if I went on the internet, I would find that there are a number of guides to put on a tournament, and none of them say anything about security. So is this something that we should be trying to take a look at as an industry, because it's on our radar now, and now that there has been at least one incident, we have to be careful about it. The devils are always in the detail. And lawyers, expert witnesses, they'll all play Monday morning quarterback, as we call it in the United States, which means tearing a game apart afterwards and saying, well, they should have done X, they should have done Y. That's easy to say, but even if you do X, Y, Z and all the different steps that are recommended, there's still going to be the potential for harm to occur. And risk management is important, and having plans, checklists, and everything else are so important. You don't want to overkill. You don't want a 1,000-point checklist, but you want a checklist that provides enough detail that someone could go through and take a look and say, okay, we've done this, we've done this, we've done that. And that provides the proof that you need if it comes to a situation where you're going to trial, where you can show that you're acted in a responsible and reasonable manner. Slide 15, the conclusion. Sporting events have been preparing for major terrorist and minor criminal events for years. We have a lot of different strategies where it's clear bag policies, it's magnetometers, which are the metal detectors coming in, it's roving security, plainclothes personnel, whatever it is. And we have to be aware that that is what goes on in that industry, and that probably is what's going to be asked of our industry, or at least there will be expert witnesses who might come forward saying, this is how you should act. You should be similar to sporting events. So the more we can act similar to sporting events, I think the stronger argument is that we are a professional type of entity and sport and organization, and we try to follow the best practices. And also care needs to be taken to examine all risks. And it's not just the major risks that we can see, such as harmed individuals from assaults by others, terrorist attacks, things like that. The most common thing you're going to see is slip and fall, trip and fall. You know, if you have spilled liquid on a walkway, that's more likely that it's going to result in a slip and fall case than if you might have a potential terrorist or criminal kind of activity. Be vigilant. Semper vigilante. You have to constantly be vigilant, and that's what I encourage everyone to do. Be on the lookout, protect yourself. Slide 16, this is my contact information. Feel free to contact me at gfried@uwf.edu. My phone number is there as well. And I wish I was in South Korea to be with everyone, but hopefully the pandemic will be past us next year, and then maybe next year I'll be able to see everyone in South Korea. Take care, everyone. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Professor Gilfried. Today, we have listened to 4 esports presentation sessions. I moved from place to place to introduce the presenters of each session with a brief introduction of the Busan Esports Arena. Once again, I'd like to express my gratitude to all the presenters. All of the research papers selected from the World Esports Academic Competition 2021, including today's presentation, can be viewed on the IESF archive website. Along with these various World Esports R&D Center programs, IESF has been pouring its efforts to support esports stakeholders around the world to share and expand the industrial value of esports and activate world esports standardization. The IESF will continue to carry out projects of World Esports R&D Center as well as World Esports Academic Seminar. Please stay with us and support for the development of World Esports at our next year's program. The IESF will continue to carry out projects of World Esports R&D Center as well as World Esports Academic Seminar. Please stay with us until the end and send us support for the development of World Esports at our next year's programs. In addition, Busan Metropolitan City and the Busan IT Industry Promotion Agency will continuously support esports and will work together with IESF. Thank you everyone for staying with us for a long time. You can watch this video again on the IESF YouTube channel. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I was your MC, Misa Lee. Thank you.